Listen, I can't figure out anymore in this world in which we live if people are genuinely upset about things or if people are upset that some people might be upset about something. So then the controversy becomes fueled just by a bunch of people claiming that other people should or should not be upset. CJ Stroud was wearing a Seattle Mariners hat yesterday. Apparently, it was a big deal. I don't know. CJ addressed it twice in the press conference, and this was one of my favorite press conferences that CJ Stroud has had. Here's the more entertaining time that he addressed the Seattle Mariners hat situation.
Ask me about my Astro fandom again. I love the Astros, you guys. I'm sorry. I like hats. Excuse me for having a little bit of personality.
No, you don't have to ask fashion questions.
Yeah. Look. We're going to find out one thing. 3 things. He likes hats, he likes Arante Ursery, and he likes Canadians. We'll get to all of those and more in this episode of Reacting to CJ Stroud's press conferences. Good performance last night. A lot to build on. Compared to last year, this time, I feel night and day about the offensive line. And if you say, hey, it's just the preseason, hey, it's just the Carolina Panthers, valid. But I'm comparing the offensive line and how they're operating right now to the way they were operating last year. Here's CJ Stroud on the offensive line.
Yeah, I think our O-line is doing a great job. We're a run-the-ball team first, that wants to establish the run. And I think, we brought in guys who are tough, that like to run the ball. I think that's first and foremost. And then the communication, I think Cole Popovich has done a great job with those guys, coaching them tough, training them tough in practice, getting those guys ready for every day. Because, up there, bro, you got to be really gritty. Want to grind, want it dirty, want it, the worst way. And I think this O-line wants that.
Yeah, a lot of you brought this up. Laremy Tunsil doesn't fit that mold. He's an awesome pass protector. Nobody's ever going to deny that. But in wanting this offense to take on the image of DeMeco Ryans and the way the defense operates, there's a certain toughness, there's a sort of grittiness, there's a certain desire to run the football that I think has been very evident really since the intra-squad scrimmage up in West Virginia a couple weeks ago now. That's where you really could start to see, oh man, all right, this offensive line, once we played tackle football, that's what I was thinking in West Virginia. I saw evidence that, man, once you start playing tackle football and you're allowed to take these guys to the ground, that the offensive line at least is trying to do it the right way. And it's looked like that multiple times now. They're still going against the Texans defense that's really, really tough and really, really gritty and all those things that CJ had just mentioned. And I think the offense is better for it. I was skeptical early in camp that, man, the offense needs to have a little success here. Maybe have them go against the twos or something. The process so far has looked pretty good, so I'm happy about that. Here's CJ on Arante Ursery himself. I love this about Arante Ursery.
And then Tay, I think Tay has one of the best mindsets I've seen from a rookie, in my couple years in the league. He texted me the night he got drafted, and I texted him. I was like, hey, bro, excited to have you on the team. And he was like, I'm going to die on the O-line for you, bro. I'm going to die out there. I'm like, all right, bro, appreciate that, man. I respect that, bro. I appreciate you saying that. So that's just his mindset. He wants to, be great. He asks the questions, going against Will and Daniil every day makes him really good. And I think, when he faces other guys, he's like, man, it's kind of easy, but he still keeps up that same tenacity and that same work ethic. So.
And again, there's that element or that theme of going against Will and Daniil. Yeah, it really makes a difference, and it makes a difference that on the defensive side of the ball, where we're a-okay with the culture there, with it's everything that DeMeco wants it to be. It's that you also have 2 of your best players on the defense. All your best players on the defense. If we looked at in no particular order, Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter, and Derek Stingley. The veterans, Kamara Lassiter's not a true veteran yet, so I'll leave him out. But those guys are all practice addicts. They're practice junkies. They take it very, very, very seriously. They want to be out at practice. They want to compete. I get the sense, honestly, that the guys on the defense are almost competing against other defenses in wanting to be the toughest defense that the Texans offense faces. So that when the Texans offense gets out in games, they're saying, man, it's kind of easier than going against you guys, which is just such a stark and drastic difference from a couple years ago when CJ Stroud said that Laremy Tunsil is a vet, not doing nothing extra at practice. that's the tone that was being set on the offensive side of the ball. And I'm just happy to see it start. Like, a lot of people talk about culture all the time. Coaches do. They've got motivational posters up. Very few people actually know how to create a culture and cultivate it. And a lot of it just starts with getting the right kinds of guys on your football team so the veterans can lead and the veterans can set the standard. So I feel really good about that. This is a CJ Stroud clip that honestly makes me a little bit retroactively angry about what the hell were we doing the last 2 years. Here's CJ Stroud on having more autonomy at the line of scrimmage.
Yes, I do. It's kind of like what I've done in the past. Like high school, I had a lot of ways to get to other plays, protections. Same thing in college. Like Coach Day put a lot on me to protection-wise and some of the alerts and cans and audibles that we had. And he helped me a lot that way. That really prepared me for that. Our schemes the last 2 years really didn't have those capabilities at least yet. So I really didn't get to do it. But this year we introduced that, and I think it's been great to just have some ownership, know what's going on, not always have to throw hard and always guys in my face. I always kind of know where it's going to come and how it's going to come. We're always on the same page communication-wise. Like me and Jake, I feel like we're like always on one accord. Same with J Pat and the rest of the centers. So I think it's been great just to have some ownership.
Yeah, it is great, and it's frustrating when you see, and a lot of you guys know this, that it's something that CJ was doing at Ohio State, that he said that he kind of has less to do or had less to do in the previous offense at the line of scrimmage than he had to do at Ohio State. And there's an argument for that. There's an argument for taking some of the things off the quarterback's plate. I think those arguments are starting to fade as defenses operate the way they do in the NFL and all of the little wrinkles they can add to where CJ, I saw last night one of the best pieces of evidence for it was when he drifted to the right and got rid of the ball to Nick Chubb. It was, I think, really understanding and feeling the pressure, what the defense was showing, and where he was going to have room in the pocket to move and create a lane. There are just little elements we've seen of that the last couple weeks, and it's DeMeco's biggest mistake as a rookie head coach was probably the hiring of Bobby Sloak, and I think DeMeco obviously learned his lesson, fired a guy that I think is probably still a close friend to DeMeco. Maybe not. I don't know. Like this is the heavy crown that you wear when you're a head coach. You got to make decisions that benefit the team, and DeMeco did it. And then it's also, I think, one of the more encouraging things is that DeMeco has been spending a lot of time with the offense during this training camp, and it's one of the hardest things to do. I talked to Dom Capers last night after the game because he's a senior assistant or a senior advisor with the Panthers, 75 years old, still going strong. Still looks like he could bench press 315 pounds, and he looks good. But we talked about that how you're torn in all these different directions, and man, when your bread and butter is the defense, it's really hard as the head coach to step away from your real area of expertise and where you love to be to just take care of the entire team. And DeMeco's, that's another tough thing that he's doing in his advancement and progression as a genuine head coach. I think this is a big leap for him this year, and I think it's starting to show dividends already compared to last offseason, 100%. And kudos to Nick Caley for having the offense at least better right now and more along in terms of clean football and efficiency and a lack of mental errors and penalties compared to where they were last year. This was really interesting by CJ. This was a couple of pieces of advice that he wished he hadn't taken when he was a young player.
I think I was talking to our broadcast team. They were like, what are the two things that you wish you didn't hear coming into the league? And the two things I explained was like how hard it was going to be. Like I don't believe in putting my own convictions on people. I think it's like a scare tactic to make you want to play harder or like work harder. But I think, the guys in positions to be starting quarterbacks or backups, whatever the case may be, they naturally kind of work hard. They put in the work, and if you don't, you kind of get weeded out. So I don't agree with like everybody saying how hard it is. Yes, it's hard. Every level is hard. You go to high school from college, it's hard. When you go to college NFL, it's hard. That's kind of prerequisite. And you kind of know that coming into it. And the second thing was interceptions. Like it's part of the game. Like I wish of course you don't want to throw interceptions. It's not something that you're out there like. F it, like I'm just gonna throw it up. Excuse my language. I'm just gonna throw it up. But it's part of the game. The great quarterbacks know how to throw an interception and move on, know how to get a completion after, get your rhythm back. So those are some of the things that I would say to them. And, I love what this league is bringing, There's a bunch of young guys that I think will be really good. So I'm excited,
Yeah, because the original question had been, what's the advice you would give to young quarterbacks? The first thing he said where, he talked about the scare tactic of telling a guy how hard it's going to be. I do think that falls into a category of a lot of times when you're giving advice to a team or there's blanketed advice that you give to players, you got to realize, oh, wait a second, I'm kind of talking to the lowest common denominator here. And there are guys like, I think Anthony Richardson needed to be taught a lesson about genuinely how hard you have to work in the NFL. But there are a lot of quarterbacks that are going to work hard no matter what, and you just need to help them refine how they work and where they focus their energy, more so than just, ooh, it's the NFL, it's big, it's bad. I heard something similar from Peyton Manning on that same topic once, and it's true. The guys that are going to work hard, they're already going to work hard. Sometimes you make the guys who are really hard workers second guess themselves almost when they're putting in plenty of time. They can always refine how they work and work smarter. That's where you should be helping them. But don't coach to the lowest common denominator. Football coaches are notorious for screaming at an entire team, basically trying to get a message to one single guy. And the problem with that is that you've got 52 guys that are totally paying attention and wondering if the coach is talking about them. Like, gosh, oh boy, he's really mad. I wonder if I'm the guy. Oh God, oh boy. And meanwhile, the one guy that really needs to hear the message, he's thinking about tacos. He's not even, his brain's not even in the building. And then you're yelling at everybody else for him. The other part was the being scared of interceptions. And it's impossible for me not to think about Bobby Sloak and perhaps whatever he was drilling into our poor young CJ's head about not throwing interceptions and whether it made him second guess himself at times or whatever it might be. That part, having a balance of the risk reward, to me, it seems like one of the hardest things for a quarterback to do. And in CJ's case, at least, he feels like maybe trying to avoid interceptions might have been overemphasized a little bit. I don't know. I don't want to see him go out and throw 35 touchdowns. I don't want to go all Jameis Winston. Don't have a 35-35 ratio on touchdowns to interceptions this year, but knowing when to let it loose, knowing when to have a little bit of a gunslinger mentality, that's a hard balance to find. One more. This is when they went up to, I think it was Toronto. They went up to Canada to do that workout this year in the offseason with his receivers. Was it Toronto or Montreal? I'm pretty sure it was Toronto. This is CJ talking about how much he likes Canadians.
But the people there are so nice, like really nice people. They're like really. The one thing I learned, they're really in tune to their lineage, like where they come from. Like if they're what we call as African American, like they know if they're African Canadian, I guess what it would be. They know like what tribe they're from, like how they got there, and I think that's something that like made me want to do it, like get into that more, like asking people out there. So you're in tourist mode for sure, but I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. I learned something. I learned something about anthropology. In studying the anthropology of the vast differences between the Canadian people and the American people. I didn't know that. And two things. One, CJ could turn that into a nice 23andMe or Ancestry.com ad or something. You parlay that into some NIL money for an NFL player. But two, also, I'm predicting the next nonsensical controversy we have with CJ, because we've had at least a couple in training camp already. We had Hatgate. We had the whether or not he shows too much emotion. Now it's going to be hardcore tariff talk with CJ Stroud all week. So where does CJ land on Canadian tariffs and everything else that goes with them? I'm going to go over the All-22 for the game the other day, have some more film out this afternoon, hopefully. And you can watch me on KHOU tonight or on every morning from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Sports Radio 610 with my beloved co-host, Sean T. Pendergast. Thank you, everybody. I don't have my outro, so just goodbye.